Wes Anderson and Taika Waititi are two filmmakers who love to focus on quirky characters. Oftentimes, this is presented as kids acting like adults and adults acting like kids. You can see this in almost every one of Wes Anderson's films, with characters like Max and Herman Bloom in Rushmore, the romantic rivals for schoolteacher Rosemary Cross, or in the Royal Tenenbaums, where the kids were all pretentious geniuses, but as adults are stuck acting like children. Similarly, in Taika's films, you can see this type of behavior in Boy, with the dad stuck as an adolescent and Boy having to make his own decisions and protect his little brother. Similarly, in Hunt of the Wilderpeople, Ricky Baker must be his own parent. And in Jojo Rabbit, Jojo tries to behave as how he thinks his dad behaved, and Hitler acts like a whiny child. And even in the Thor movies that Taika directed, Thor acts more like a spoiled child who doesn't understand that the world doesn't revolve around him. That quirkiness is also displayed in the plot of the films. For example, in Rushmore, Max makes a magnum opus school play about the Vietnam War, complete with a real flamethrower. And in Boy, the film ends with a thriller-inspired haka. In the Royal Tenenbaums, the film ends with an outrageous car crash, and in Hunt of the Wilderpeople, there's an over-the-top manhunt. They're very heightened scenes that may or may not be realistic, but represent the emotional ending for the main characters, and they fit better than a realistic ending would. Aesthetically, Wes and Taika have similarities. They both like very symmetrical shots, they like notebook drawings, and they also like playing with a strict color palette. I think in particular, the Grand Budapest Hotel and Jojo Rabbit are the most visually similar. While they have some similarities with quirkiness and aesthetics, I think the filmmakers end up having very different messages. Wes often finds absurdity with characters who are very wealthy. In the Royal Tenenbaums, the family is ridiculously successful at everything they try. In Darjeeling Unlimited, the characters come from a very rich family. The Grand Budapest Hotel takes place in an extravagant, exclusive hotel. Wes drives the tension and conflict of his films by constructing absurd situations. A romantic love triangle with adopted siblings and a childhood friend. Three brothers stuck on a train in India, one with a broken face. A concierge that tries to seduce elderly guests. The Royal Tenenbaums and Darjeeling Limited are not realistic families or people, but the problems the characters face are realistic. For example, in Darjeeling Limited, no one ever really listens to the youngest brother, and the oldest brother feels the responsibility to take care of everyone else. In Fantastic Mr. Fox, Ashton feels overshadowed by Christopherson. These are all relatable problems, and as Wes's films show, they happen to every family, no matter how wealthy. So even though Wes's characters are not realistic, they reflect the difficulty of being an individual and trying to express yourself in the world. The families in Royal Tenenbaum and Darjeeling Limited have ridiculous issues, and their wealth allows them to move into even more ridiculous situations. But fundamentally, they are about the difficulty and challenge in loving siblings and parents. Taika's absurdity comes from a different place. Instead, he focuses on characters who are already in absurd situations due to their societal circumstances. Instead of constructing situations for wealthy characters, he focuses on characters that aren't materially well off, like Boy or Ricky Baker or Jojo. The absurdity heightens over the course of these films. Hunt of the Wilderpeople ends with a huge manhunt, and Jojo Rabbit ends with a battle where children are expected to participate. These situations are absurd and ridiculous and funny, but they show us how ridiculous the premise of the films are. The end of Hunt of the Wilderpeople is something that would never happen, but the beginning of the story, where Boy goes from one foster home to the next, isn't uncommon. And while the Nazis didn't actually have children fighting, many children were raised in Nazi Germany. How did they keep their sanity and humanity? These are issues of society failing and the people that are left in the gaps. Taika often gives us happy and hopeful endings, but we should be asking, how did we let this happen and how do we avoid it in the future? I love Taika Waititi and Wes Anderson's films, and I'm really excited to see the projects they work on next. It's cool seeing the evolution of Waititi's films as his budget has grown, and Wes Anderson seems to be perfecting his style and aesthetic with each film, and I'm sure we will see more quirkiness and absurdity from both of these directors.